Hey, folks, welcome to Friendly Orbit, the podcast that draws us together no matter how far we fly. I'm Ceres, sworn to popcorn, and I'm joined by.
Theia is my name, and mispronouncing my name is my game. Because today we're talking about a movie that is so bad, it got even the name of its own characters wrong.
Okay.
Can you guess?
No, I have no idea. I just know that we're reviewing a movie today.
Yes, a legendarily bad movie.
A legendary. It's not like Sharktopus, is it?
No. This is much higher budget, which is what makes this so interesting. This is drawn from some of the best material, according to the internet, that they could have had to base it on. This is a catastrophic failure of everything. So hold on to your six-legged flying bison, because we're talking about the live-action adaptation of M. Night Shyamalan, the Last Airbender.
Avatar.
Yep.
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff.
Well, Theia, that was the worst movie I've ever seen.
Nailed it.
Oh
I promised you.
It was worse than Sharktopus, guys. It was worse than Sharktopus because it was trying.
Yeah, exactly. You know what movies like Sharktopus have? Humility.
Oh my god, this movie
Sharknado movies know what they are.
Yeah.
But
This movie was trying so hard and was so bad. I mean, I don't even know where to start, to be honest.
So first, if you don't know, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a Nickelodeon show. Avatar. And is kind of like lightning in a bottle for what it is. It's kind of considered truly like an anomaly in the world of children cartoons in the West.
Yeah.
For how well consistently it's written, for how it manages to balance mature themes while remaining appropriate for children.
Yeah, I think that's really what it does best. Like, if you were to pick one thing that it does best of all those things, what most distinguishes it is how watchable it is as an adult, and how watchable it is as a child. You know, they really find a way not to sacrifice one for the other very much.
Yeah. And the daughter of one M. Night Shyamalan liked this.
Yeah.
Like this cartoon very much.
Day.
On a fateful day, apparently, M. Night Shyamalan walked in on his daughter watching the show. And then he started watching along and he thought it was really good. And he just couldn't let it be.
So he decides to make he convinces people. He convinces people to make a movie out of this show.
He goes to Paramount and tells them, you know what's all the rage with the kids? Avatar. You know who could direct this? And they said Peter Jackson. And he said no. Me.
No, me, guys.
Okay, who's going to write it?
He writes it. He produces it. He directs it. He puts his name in the credits at least twice. We didn't watch the full credits.
Yeah, he wrote, he shows up first, written, directed, and produced by M. Night Shyamalan, which is the first scene.
For the writing.
Which is the first scene that shows up, the first thing that shows up in the credits. So as soon as you're done, the first thing you are told is that there's one person who's responsible for all of it.
There's one person to blame and one person only.
They often say movies are a collaborative medium and great auteurs shouldn't take all the credit for their movies. In this case, I will let him. I'll let him have it. I'll let him have all the glory. M. Night, you did it, you beautiful bastard.
Oh my god, guys, this movie is so bad. Do you have a place where you want to start? I was thinking we could just start with the bending.
I think we can just start, we already went over it a little bit, but just first impressions.
First impressions? This movie sucks. Yeah. The editing, I really don't know how to formulate this in a punchy way for you as listeners, so let me just put it this way. If you went through the anatomy of the movie and picked out every single part of something that makes a movie, they're all bad. There's not a single thing that is done well. The writing is really bad. The dialogue is really bad. The editing is catastrophically bad. The CGI is bad. The acting is really bad. They vary. Some things are like
worse than others.
Are worse than others, but in general, none of it is like good. Like what ends up looking good in this movie is like, well, I guess the soundtrack isn't awful, and there's only one major time when the soundtrack is contrary to what's being shown on screen, or like,
hey, an incredibly funny scene.
Yeah, or like, hey, those far off CGI backgrounds look okay, I guess.
I like the Fire Nation architecture. I didn't look like the Fire Nation, but I thought it was a nice combination of Southeast Asian architecture, and that was sweet.
Yeah,
but it's incredible.
The choreography is bad. The actors are like the extras are bad. The
acting is bad.
The acting is. Well, I already said that. Yeah, the acting. I mean, it's mostly bad. There are like Dev Patel can act, and you can tell he's the only one who can kind of act.
But the lines are bad.
But he has such bad lines he's working with.
Let's be honest. Like he makes it work sometimes, but there were moments where I was like, "Can we have another one? Can we take another take?"
Yeah, he makes it work sometimes, but not all the times. Yeah, the extras are really weird. The choreographies are really bad. The props are really bad. It's like...
It's incredible. There are many movies that I don't like that have probably a budget similar to this one, where I can say, like, it's competently shot.
Yeah.
The acting is mediocre or maybe even good, but the movie's still written poorly. But this movie is incredible. Yeah, you're right. It fails at every single thing.
Yeah, it is unique amongst bad movies for having no redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually none.
Yeah, exactly.
There
is nothing.
There's not the like, you really have to start scraping the bottom of the dumpster to try and find things that this movie doesn't do badly.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of a movie that I really didn't like, and it's like, but the editing is right.
Yeah, exactly.
The cuts aren't jarring.
It feels like somebody's high school project. It feels like it's missing. It feels like it's missing this sort of vague essence that turns a project from a passion project and amateur made at home to like a real movie, right? And it's just that sense of oomph, of punch, of momentum, of framing. It's actually a lot of different things that we can get into, but that's just basically what it feels like. It feels like you're watching a YouTube video that you directed as a 5-year-old, and you're like, oh, I get sort of what the idea of the plot is, but this doesn't really work. Why doesn't it really work? I don't really know. I'm a 5-year-old, right?
Yeah. To me, it also feels like everything was like done once. First pass. The script, first pass. The costumes, first pass. The acts, all first takes.
Yeah.
Every choreography was practiced one time on camera. There is nothing that was effort was put into it.
Bad. You don't understand, I think, what the conflict of the movie is until the movie is practically over. And then it's like, oh, so this is the conflict of the movie. I get it now.
Yeah, a dragon tells us.
A dragon tells. Guys, have you ever heard of show don't tell? It's this little writing principle. It's this idea that, if you describe something that's really intimidating, it's much better than just telling people this is really intimidating, or having some character say this is really intimidating.
Yeah. But what's an even better tactic? How about tell, don't show?
Yeah.
Or tell, show poorly, then tell more. Just in case the audience didn't get.
This movie has like 9 different narration montages. This movie is chock full. I mean, the writing, I have to say, I think is by far the worst thing about the movie, right?
Yeah.
The writing is so bad. It's like there's scenes, I kid you not, where characters are monologuing their own motivations and backstory to themselves.
Or to an unconscious part.
When they think they're alone, and then they happen to be overheard by somebody else in the room. Like, have you ever known a human in your entire life who would just stand in a corner and talk about how their mom was disappointed in them when they were a child, or how they really wanted to go to medical school but they couldn't hack it? And they're just like, they're not thinking these things. No, they're saying them aloud. There's so many lines in this movie where people go like, basically the equivalent of where's the supermarket? And then somebody replies with, my father left me when I was 3, but I want to become a great adventurer. Like, people just spout their motivations and their exposition all the time, and none of the characters are really characterized organically. Even by the end of the movie, I don't really know what Katara's deal is. I don't really know what Sokka's deal is. I don't really know what anybody's deal is, to be honest, except for maybe Ong. So
the Last Airbender.
For people who don't know, they changed his name. He's not Aang, and he's not the Avatar.
He's the Avatar.
He's the Avatar, and his name is Ong. It's really weird.
It's jarring. And
hence the title.
Iroh is Iroh.
Yeah, exactly. Iroh is Iroh. They changed a few pronunciations.
I think they call Sokka, they call him Sokka at least once.
Yeah, I don't know. Avatar, the Lost Airbender.
The Lost Airbender.
Is what this movie is. But yeah, like, you don't really understand anybody, and people just constantly say what their character's deal is, but it's never really shown in any convincing way. Like,
and it's contradictory.
There's one part where Katara is like, he's like, "Oh, you're always such an optimist," and it's like, is she? We haven't seen any evidence for that.
Yeah, and like the few times where we actually get some like exposition, like characterization through action, it's highly contradictory. The movie starts with Katara and Sokka walking on ice, and then noticing that something is glowing under the ice. At which point, Sokka kneels on the ground that he's standing on and pulls out his boomerang and starts chopping at the ice while Katara is telling him, "Be careful." Then he breaks the ice starts crawling apart, and they all run away.
Yeah.
Then the sphere emerges of ice with Ong inside.
Yeah.
And Sokka tells,
no, don't touch it.
Be careful, don't touch it. It could be a Fire Nation trick. At which point, Katara takes his boomerang.
It just runs up like
runs
a
up in the sphere and starts wagging.
Possessed by the plot. Possessed by the demon of the plot. Yeah, and starts chopping. Yeah.
Yeah, she starts chopping. She's literally, they take turns doing the same action. So who's the cautious one?
And they keep doing that, because then the Fire Nation shows up, right?
Yes.
And Sokka gets like all aggressive, like he's going to fight them. And she's like, no, don't fight them. And then, like, literally, I swear to you guys, like 30 seconds later.
Because they take the grandma, and Katara is attached to the grandma.
Yeah, so 30 seconds later, it's the reverse. And Katara is going, no, we got to be bold. And Sokka's like, no, we can't risk it.
No, not even that. Katara is waterbending, preparing a weapon, doing like, it's not even later and Katara is giving a speech, because she's also doing that. Yeah. But she's literally doing the same thing as Sokka, reaching for a weapon while they're surrounded by soldiers.
Yeah. So that's weird about the writing. They all the time, they tell, don't show. Like, there's like, we never get lines. Like, at one point, Ong meets like, oh my God, they've infected me. Aang meets the heads of like a city council or whatever. We never actually get to really see that scene, because they're just narrating over the entire scene the whole time. So we never actually get to hear. It's like,
you mean when we get to the water tribe?
like you as like,
okay,
parents or whoever, anybody else. I mean, she's a princess, so apparently anybody else in that monarchical system who might have said words or had a face, you know, we never hear anything from them, because they're just like narrating over that the entire time.
The last piece of narration comes, I think, 60 minutes into the movie when they arrive at the Northern Water
Like,
tribe.
there's continuous narration throughout this entire movie, and people just spout their motivations. And Aang will just say stuff like, oh, this is the monk Gyatso. He was like a father to me. Which is a paternal relationship is extreme. Like, any parental relationship is extremely easy to demonstrate in cinema. You just show them kind of walking from A to B, being like friendly with each other. Even for just like, as a 2-second clip, you can already do it. And it's clear if the actors just show it on their faces.
It's crazy that we get a flashback.
Yeah,
after we've seen it. That's what I'm saying. Telling, then show.
Then show badly, and then tell a little bit more, just in case you didn't get it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There are so many flashbacks in this story, in this movie, which could have been very effective if they had been shown sooner.
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole part where Aang tells us that at the ceremony where it was announced that he was the Avatar, everybody bowed, and he was supposed to bow back, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And he tells us that in the closest close-up to ever close-up.
He just tells us that, and he tells it to us exactly like that. So you go, oh, and he didn't bow back? And then it's like, oh, and that was a bad thing. All right, I get it, right?
Yeah, it was never... yeah.
And then they show us the flashback of that moment
At the end of the movie.
At the end of the movie when he's getting over this conflict. And then they sort of reenact it when a whole bunch of people bow to him and then he bows to them back in real life.
With a very sad face.
Yeah, with he's in anguish. It looks like he really hasn't resolved anything.
Yeah, it's terrible. This child will never be happy again.
But, so it's like... They're just, so they're constantly spouting their motivation at you in ways that, like, humans just don't talk and is really, like, grinding and upsetting, right? You don't get to infer anything. You don't get to interpret anything. You're just told how it is and shut up. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, repetition. Like, you ever know when you write in English and you try and find multiple words to express the same thing? So you say...
Or you use those dang pronouns that millennials and Gen Z are so obsessed with.
So you say something like, let's go to the village. I think if we help them, they might help us back. And plus, my mom always told us that towns should watch out for one another.
What if we said...
You see how I referenced a village 3 times in a row, but I didn't say village 3 times in a row because it's repetitive and grating?
But what if we said, we should help this village? If we help this village, then the villagers might help us. My mom always said, village stick together.
Exactly. But what if we said, teachers who can teach you waterbending?
Is there a spiritual place where I could go meditate? There is a very spiritual place in this city. The city was built around this place.
It's so crazy, you guys. There's
first pass. I'm telling you, first pass.
Yeah. There's like literally a line where Fire Lord Ozai says, Sozin, right? Sozin's comment.
No, Fire Lord Ozai.
Yeah.
Sozin is it's Sozin's comment. That's correct. Sorry.
So I was just checking the name with you. Yeah. So Fire Lord Ozai says, in 3 years, Sozin's comment is going to show up, and it'll give all firebenders the abilities of the highest firebenders, the ability to make fire from their chi. So we use the word fire 3 times in one sentence. We use the word firebender twice in the same sentence. And we use the word ability twice in the same sentence, you guys.
Yeah. But, Ceres, we could be here ranting without a structure forever. I want to ask you.
Yeah.
What was your favorite moment? And by favorite, it can mean anything you want.
Okay, my favorite moment, like the moment I thought that I was going to die and my soul was going to pass out of my body into the great beyond to go meet a giant dragon, was the moment where within 5 minutes, this is kind of a 5-minute moment, they stumble out of the air temple after learning that all of Aang's friends and family are dead. Where, this is kind of like, I mean, it's so insane because it's like his whole family was murdered and nobody tells him on the way there. Imagine like, imagine your whole family was killed in a genocide and everybody knows it. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to go home and visit my family. And everyone's just
fair, I mean, here nothing is clear. In the Avatar show, it's clear that the Southern Water Tribe people they say no one has seen an airbender for a long time.
Yeah.
And then Aang is like, they're probably hiding. And Katara's like, maybe. And only when they get there does Katara see dead people. And then Aang doesn't see them. And then Katara covers them up. Because she's like, I don't want him to see that.
Okay, but
anyway, that's the show.
We see the air tribe. Then we just kind of cut and say,
oh, the air nomads actually.
Yeah. And then we just kind of cut and we have a subtitle that says
Southern Earth Kingdom.
Southern Earth Kingdom, because again, why show anything when you could just write it on screen? This movie also, by the way, starts with a pre-credits narration and it starts with a title roll like text that you read.
Title crawl.
Followed by narration. So
who's reading the title crawl?
It's just narration followed by more narration. But anyways, so we're in the Southern Earth Kingdom. Why? We're there. Okay, shut up. Don't ask questions.
Yeah, at this point in the show, there's a reason they're here. They already know what they're doing. Here, they don't know what they're doing.
We're just wanderingly, aimlessly...
Honestly, they barely know his name. Yeah. They just found out 20 minutes into the movie.
20 minutes into the movie, his name is revealed. Aang's name is revealed. So we're just wandering through, having a great time in the Southern Earth Kingdom. And a random child runs up to us. We don't know the child's name. The child does not say a word. The child just kind of hides behind the protagonist. And then firebenders show up. And the firebenders go, oh, this child was earthbending little rocks at us.
It really hurt.
And it really hurt, which is obviously played for a comedic beat. But then,
doesn't land?
It doesn't really. No, none of the beats land in this movie, really. Everyone can help us fight now. That was the only one that I felt like halfway landed. Anyways, so
Which one?
It's Sokka when he puts up his fists in the Earth prison and he goes, "Everyone can help us fight now," or whatever.
Yeah.
That one kind of half landed.
Yeah, okay.
But anyways, so this kid, knowing nothing about this kid, the protagonists immediately are like, we're going to stand up to the cops, we're going to fight the cops, so they get thrown in Earthbender prison. Now, in the show, Earthbender prison is a metal prison in the middle of the water because, Earthbenders, if you put them in a big Earth building, they can just kind of leave, right?
Yeah.
So in
Right,
this
it's
show...
a metal barge. It's
So
purposefully designed to contain them.
So M. Night Shyamalan said, that's bullshit.
That's not realistic.
So the Earth prison is just literally a hole in the ground. Like, it's literally like a valley. Like, it's like if you've ever seen like an earth quarry, like, but it's all dirt.
There's a couple of tents. It looks like you could just walk out.
It's eminently bendable. Like, you could bend, Earthbenders could bend any part of this camp except for the gate, maybe, right? And Aang walks in, and I kid you not, within 20 seconds of being in prison, Aang is like, oh, I just basically need to give them a pep talk, and launches into this pep talk where he says to the Earthbender, "You're all amazing, powerful people.
You're proud warrior. Why are you not fighting back?"
He calls them amazing people. It's just like, so you just need to fight back. Stop letting them treat you like this. Why are you doing this?
Also, he's like, would you fight back if the Avatar had returned?
And they're like, the Avatar's dead. And he's like, I'm the Avatar. And this is dialogue somehow. And then...
Are you an Airbender boy?
Yeah, and then they defeat a whole bunch of firebenders who seem like they really don't want to do their job well because they just kind of stand around and wait to be beaten up.
They really don't want to fight anyone.
Followed by probably a classic clip that you've seen if you've looked up the Last Airbender movie clips, where a team, this is the only time in the entire movie, sincerely, I feel like that the bending has actual passion and coordination behind it, and 8 airbenders are acting together. They're throwing their whole body into these...
Earthbenders, you said airbenders.
Sorry, earthbenders. They're throwing their whole body into it. They're doing these precise movements. And then the tiniest fucking rock, like seriously, like something that a 10-year-old could lift over their head, flies across screen, and then kind of lightly taps a firebender. Like, it moves so slow.
It moves so slowly.
So small.
And then a final person does a move which accelerates the rock and quickly smashes into the guy.
Yeah, and just smashes into a guy.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The entire, I shit you not, the entire arc, this entire subplot of the movie, from going to the Southern Earth Kingdom, to getting locked in prison, to giving everyone a pep talk literally 20 seconds after. Like, there's not even a cut or like a time skip, right? So this is literally like 20 seconds after entering prison, they're breaking out already, right? So talk about no payoff, rush development, doesn't mean anything.
I let you know that the payoff was to learn something interesting about Avatar Kyoshi.
Yeah, exactly. That she liked toys. Did you know that, guys?
Games. But yes.
And the whole thing is wrapped up in 5 minutes. Like, we actually, like, we double checked and went back. It's from, like, I can't remember. It's like from minute 16 to minute 21. This entire subplot is resolved.
It's insane.
And it never matters again.
And the transition out of it is crazy. You just see all the Fire Nation soldiers just spontaneously leaving the prison.
Yeah.
Then there is a cross transition, like a blending transition, where
we
we fade in, fade out into another scene, which is just Aang casually beating up 2 guards on the streets, and then we just cut, and now the village leader is giving them some loot.
Yeah, it's just like firebender guards are leaving. Fade to action. Aang is kicking somebody's ass, not in prison anymore. What's going on?
Sudden cut.
Loot. The town is liberated.
This is literally how you don't do a movie.
You can win a game of Call of Duty and get a more extensive cutscene for your victory than whatever happens right there.
Yeah, I know missions of Halo Reach that have better narrative setup and payoff than this. No, it's
so that was my like.
Oh, that was really.
That was the moment where I paused and I was like, my soul is going to leave my body.
Yeah, we had to pause at that point and quickly go over what just happened.
I was when he was in the middle of his speech. I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening.
That's when you start to dissociate.
Yeah, you're kind of like, I just can't believe that, like, literally 10 seconds after being in prison, he just starts giving a pep talk to the prisoners, and it works. That was the problem.
It's also crazy how quickly he gets, like, arrested. Like they say something back to the Fire Nation soldier, cut to like his hands tied up in chains.
You're right. Yeah, they're just like, we're gonna fight the Fire Nation guys. Cut to hanging chains. So it's like, oh, I guess that didn't go well.
To be clear, this movie takes itself very seriously most of the time. These are not meant to be comedic.
These are not comedic beats at all. This is just the movie failing at being serious.
Yeah. My favorite moment, and I'm gonna focus on something much smaller.
Yeah.
Is so in the show, the Fire Lord is a very imposing and threatening villain. And for the majority of the show, his face is never shown. Episode 1 of season 3, at the end of episode 1 of season 3, which is the final season, that's where you see his face for the first time.
Yeah.
All the other times, he's a dark silhouette, like being basically in the shadow of giant flames behind him, because the Fire Nation's throne room is supposed to have all these flames behind the throne, which make the Fire Lord appear like a god.
Yeah.
And it's really cool design. It's simple, but it works really well, and it creates this very clear, dark silhouette. And in this movie, the Fire Lord is just introduced, walking into a corridor with the main antagonist, slightly bored by his forced exposition. But that's not my favorite point. That part made me lose my mind, because like he just walks in and he's just slightly bored. He's not announced. There is nothing. But
there's literally nothing to hype them up. When they both enter, they're both unknown characters. So,
no, they're not. Zhao was introduced before.
Oh, yeah, okay. But still, it's like, he just...
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the kick to me. Later, there's a scene where he's standing on the throne, much more above the same guy, the same exact character in his throne room. And we're not filming him with the dark silhouette behind flames, but the camera is behind him. We don't show his face.
Fully see him,
and his voice is more imposing.
Yeah.
And we focus on his ring as he taps his finger. Yeah. And that made me go absolutely crazy. And in this scene, he's wondering whether his son, the banished Prince Zuko, another antagonist eventually who gets a great redemption arc in the show.
If you don't know Avatar The Last Airbender, we're not going to be able to explain it to you. Don't worry. Just watch M. Night Shyamalan's movie. They explain the plot like 4 times. So you're totally good. Every point is explained like 4 times over.
Yeah. Point being, to come back. And then he says, he has this slow, very draggy monologue saying, you think that my son is this person that the soldiers are calling the blue spirit? Pause for seconds, like 3 or 4
seconds. Yes. And then the scene ends.
That's 3 or 4 minutes, 3 or 4 seconds of awkward silence.
It's genuinely a long pause. It's genuinely a very long beat.
Yes. That's it. That's the payoff of the scene.
Oh, yeah. I love how Fire Lord Ozai has backwards sideburns that curl under his ear.
Those are incredible.
And all the other Fire Nation people have forward sideburns that point towards their mustache.
I think any scene with Fire Lord Ozai would have been a better introduction. Even the later one, when they're outside, he's talking about killing the spirits. That's like something. He's not bored.
His introductory scene is just terrible where it's placed. The throne scene as his introduction would have been way better. But what got me about his introduction scene is that basically Fire...
Zhao. Admiral Zhao.
Zhao. Yeah, because I don't know, it's just like... I think that's actually pronounced Joe. But anyways.
No. Maybe in this movie it might.
No, I mean, when I was listening to like a Chinese history podcast, and they said it, I don't know, he always read Zhao, Z-H-O-U. He read it like Joe. But anyways, what do I know? Maybe I'm misremembering as well.
I mean, listen, that's how they call them in the original show. I don't know if Aang is the correct...
No. I mean, like in Chinese, how you pronounce that.
I get it. I'm just saying.
But anyways, the point that I'm trying to say is Fire Lord Zhao is there. Not Fire Lord Zhao, just Zhao. General Zhao, I guess.
Admiral
Zhao. And Fire Lord Ozai. And Zhao's like, we found this ancient library and we raided it.
As you know.
Yeah, as you know. We found this ancient library and we raided it. And Fire Lord Ozai is like, shut up, get to the point. Which is like, okay.
First line of the villain.
Yeah.
That's what Sauron says, right? In the Peter Jackson movie.
Yeah. Also, like Zhao is explaining how this is like a mythical thing that some people didn't even think was real, and they found it. And he's like, "Shut up, get to the point." And he goes, "Okay, well, we found scrolls in it." And Zhao turns to him and like makes eye contact. Like
Ozai turns to him.
Ozai turns to him and makes
raises his eyebrows.
Yeah, like this is interesting. It's like so funny. We found the mythical library of Alexandria. Shut up, get to the point. Well, we found books in it. Oh, you don't say. Tell me more. It's so funny. Like the beat is so off, and like the reaction is so off, and it's like if you're just paying attention to the dialogue, you'd be like, oh no, this is wrong. I need to rework this slightly, right? Yeah. He needs to say, as you know, we've been raiding at whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's like, get to the point. Well, we found the mythical library. Oh, that's interesting, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
You know, or something. But the beat for, oh, that's interesting can't be, we found books at the library. It's just like, who would have thought?
Maybe in this world, libraries are used for something else.
Exactly. In this yeah, like,
who knows what goes on in the elusive mind of M. Night Shyamalan? Yeah, you cannot read the man.
It's exclusively ice cream and strip malls.
Yeah. Okay. Next category.
Yes.
So I wanted to kind of a worst line read, but I think we went over the topic plenty. I wanted to ask, like, when is the last time that you've seen the show?
The last time I saw Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah, not Korra.
2015.
2015.
Literally exactly 10 years ago, except for I was already done with the show at this point in time in the year. So, like, literally 10 years and 2 months ago.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's interesting because obviously, like, I have watched it more recently than you,
mm-hmm.
and so I bring in, I think, a few more memories, but it's very interesting. There's an escape scene mm-hmm. where Aang is taken captive, and he has to escape, and he's helped by Zuko in a mask. And it's interesting because in that one thing that I noticed while rewatching it more recently, the show, is that they do a very good job at showing that when they fight side by side, they win. But when they get split, that's when they start. Losing, and it's only by really working together that they can overwhelm this massive Fire Nation army and escape. This is all to say that scene exists in this movie, and it's terrible. And Aang is doing so well all the time, and the Fire Nation people couldn't be more incompetent.
Like
there's one archer. There's one archer who is good at his job.
Bad. The Fire Nation people are so bad. It's like classic. Like if you track any individual dude in the scene, it's like, why is this person not attacking him? They have like the perfect opening to attack him.
Like, imagine the traditional trope that we kind of accept in action movies that, if the bad guys all attacked at the same time, there would be no way.
Yeah.
But the battle choreography makes it entertaining.
Yeah.
The battle choreography here is shit. Yeah. And so you end up looking... It's
just a bunch of dudes standing in a field and they, like, won't attack.
Like the guy who was waiting and kind of doing an idle animation until...
This is from the montage, but there's a point where a guy is literally standing there for, like, 5 seconds straight, just kind of doing an idle animation, like he's just moving his sword up and down and moving his legs up and down, but he's not moving from A to B. He's just
5 meters away from Aang.
And then Aang spends 5 seconds winding up the magical mystical energy, and boom, then bends him out of the way.
Yeah, he does his ore bending.
Yeah, he does his ore bending. It's so, the fighting choreography is so bad, and even in that scene, although that scene has some cooler moments in it when they're fighting together, where like actually cool stuff happens sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
The whole first part of the scene is totally weird, where like nobody's attacking Aang when they should. Aang is like inconveniencing them with thin wooden doors.
Yeah.
And it's just
which they cannot pass
and
by.
They just can't figure it out.
The Fire Nation, honestly, revolving doors. That's should be in the new defense manual.
This is something that I disliked about the movie. Airbending is portrayed very poorly. In the show, it's very clear that airbending is the reactive form of bending. It's the form of bending that uses dodging and maneuvering and using people's momentum against them, using people's attacks against them, right? Yeah. In this movie, it's just the Force. You just fucking shove people into walls and fly and fucking, like, airbending doesn't at all feel like airbending. It is literally the control of air still in this movie, but it's not at all tricksy maneuvering, using people's momentum against them. It's just shoving people around with air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the bending in general sucked.
The bending in general sucks.
Which is really bad for a movie about bending.
Yeah, but to be fair, they don't use it at all.
Yeah.
So,
So one of the reasons the bending sucked is because it didn't happen a lot.
yeah.
People just kind of tended to end up in fistfights a lot for some reason.
Aang's favorite martial art is bashing Zuko's head into the wall.
And then when there is bending happening, okay, the visual effects are dated, but the visual effects are also poorly executed in that people often don't know what they're reacting to. You can tell actors haven't been given good cues for how they're supposed to be reacting and what they're currently reacting to.
Probably stuff was changed, like they were told certain things would happen, and then M. Night changed his mind.
And then they didn't happen like that, and then the reactions are completely weird and totally off. And the last thing, or there's other things, but the last thing that really bugs me is bending takes a long time to wind up. So in the TV show, bending it's dynamic, it's active, it's quick, it's fast.
It follows your movement.
Yeah, you shoot your hand forward and a blast of air is already moving. In this movie, generally, they kind of wind up with a little dance for about 3 seconds, and then the blast of air comes out of your hand.
Yeah, it's much more like ritualistic. Like the dance exists to summon the element, and then the element attacks. Well, traditionally, in the show, usually it would be that your movement, the element follows the movement.
Yeah.
And the more you're spiritually in tune with your element, the more you can summon while doing the martial arts.
So if you've seen just the trailer of the Netflix show, you've seen more dynamic bending than if you watch the entire M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Mm.
Like, the bending is so painfully slow. Like I said, there's that one time where Aang takes 5 seconds to bend a gust of air into somebody.
But the guy is patient.
But the guy is extremely patient doing his idle animation. Yeah. There's like so many moments in this movie where the bending really takes a long time to wind up. So it's not dynamic. It's not punchy. It's not action. It's kind of weirdly like, why don't they stab him while he's doing this?
Yeah.
Like, why don't they? So the cues, I forgive them poor visual effects because it was made longer ago, sure. But it doesn't happen enough for a movie that's into bending. It's not epic enough. Like that tiny rock that's floating by the squad of 8 guys is like, it's not big enough. It's not showy enough. And people aren't reacting to it right. And most importantly, it's not fast enough. Like, it doesn't feel like a dynamic, interesting, where people are using powers and abilities in interesting ways. One of the things that the world building of Avatar, The Last Airbender does is always use airbending in interesting ways, like the fire cannons, which get a brief but nice cameo in this movie.
I mean, bending. In general. You said firebending, I think. Or
like the firebending cannons, for example, right?
Okay.
That's an example where, like, the world building and bending, like, matters. And the rock, paper, scissors of bending sort of matters, right? When people are deprived of air, they can't bend in certain ways, right? When people are deprived, like, waterbenders are deprived from water, they often have trouble waterbending unless they're good enough to get the water out of the air, right? And earthbenders... Yeah, there's
a scene where Katara makes herself sweat in prison. Yeah. Because the prison is made out of wood, so Toph can't earthbend it, so she makes herself sweat and then makes a small blade with the water.
Or like the metal floating barge prison for all the earthbenders, right? Because at this point in the show, nobody can, and no earthbenders can bend metal yet, so that's considered a safe material to store air. So like the whole like the rock paper scissors of the bending meta,
the physicality of it,
and just like it matters, right? It's not just laser beams basically that you're just shoving at people. And that's another part. Like the air, like I said, the airbending in this movie is just the force. Basically, you jump high, you push people back with it, but there's none of the like philosophy of airbending, of like dodging people, making them run into each other, being kind of a prankster. That whole part of Aang is
the
like
tricksters.
Like Aang does not play a single game.
He never does the air scooter.
He never does the air scooter. He never does anything playful. He never like pets Appa and has like fun with him. Like he's not really Aang in any like meaningful. Okay, none of the other characters are themselves either. But Aang, he never plays. He never.
Maybe Zuko's the closest.
Yeah.
Because Zuko also is dumb, like in the show. He makes impulsive, stupid decisions.
Yeah.
So the bad writing that dumbs down everyone in this movie doesn't affect him as much.
Honorable mention for worst moments in the movie. Zuko and Iroh are having a serious conversation about, are we going to keep tracking down the Avatar? Could you maybe just make a life here out of the way and enjoy the rest of your days? And then towards the end of the conversation, the music pitches really dark and like reveal-esque. And the camera turns to reveal that Iroh's been getting a foot massage during this conversation.
Yeah, from a very pretty lady.
And it's like, what? Why the dark turn? And the reason there's a dark turn is because we get narration, like, not narration actually, but we just get to hear disembodied lines.
We hear a line that then transitions us into the next scene, which is a dark scene.
With Fire Lord Ozai.
Yeah, but
and he's got a line there. So they transition into dark music immediately. So they just completely skip the comedic beat. They completely skip the comedic beat.
The dark music overlaps with the visual gag, and it creates this very odd scene, which is like, it's the moment where you turn around Grima, Wormtongue, and Saruman when Grima goes, but there is no such an army, sir. And then it pans to the Urukai, but instead there is a nice lady giving Iroh a foot massage. And then we go into the scene where Ozai is being threatening, being filmed from behind, and yes.
Yeah. So
Ceres.
Yeah.
Next topic.
Mm-hmm.
Is Aang Jesus?
Is Aang Jesus? Yes.
Yeah,
Aang is it's crazy. His markings make a cross on his back. He's suffering at all times.
He's always suffering.
When he's doing
He has to accept his role as the savior of the world.
Yeah. The spirituality of the movie really bugged me. It's not that there isn't room for spirituality in Avatar, but I felt like it was way overdone. Like, his markings are super spiritual. You can't see his markings properly when you're looking at him from far away. And a lot of the idea of that the Avatar is a warrior who brings the world into balance, who bends all four of the elements, who is the diplomat and the mediator between nations, all of that was cut out. Mostly what the Avatar just is in this world is the spirit talker, the bridge between the spirit world and the human world.
Which is so weird, because this is really not the season for that.
Yes, it's really not the season for it, and the spirit world doesn't really matter in this season. The only time the spirit world actually is relevant in this season, the only time anybody cares about spirits is at the climax, when it matters, when a spirit gets almost murdered, right? But for the whole rest of, we don't see in the Earth villages people having shrines to spirits. We don't get that. The panda, I can't remember exactly how that plot line goes, but there's a panda spirit that's upset with industrialization or chopping down forests or something like that. We don't get any of that stuff that builds up the idea that the spirit world is real and people interact with it regularly. But by the way, in amazing writing fashion, their line to explain the spirit world is, the spirit world is the world of spirits. It's like our world, but you can't touch it. That's the line they use to describe the spirit world.
And it's crazy because,
not only is it repetitive, it's uninformative. If I said the spirit world, that's what you're assuming already. You're assuming the spirit world isn't Kansas. You're assuming that it's an immaterial world of spirits. You already know that.
And it's 5 minutes into the movie where they're in an urgent hurry to rescue Aang, and the grandma just stops them to explain them that the Avatar is the bridge between worlds.
Yeah.
Which really, to them, it shouldn't, their first worry should be the Avatar is he who brings balance to the world and keeps the four nations in balance. That's the thing.
So if spirits were the whole point of this movie, and I could see that being okay, the climax of our movie is when a spirit is almost killed, and the Avatar is, although the main focus of the Avatar is as this diplomatic peacemaker, maybe we could focus more on the spiritual side of the Avatar in this season, I say already, in this movie, but then they have to make it matter more. It has to matter at the start, and it has to matter at the end, what we see is the political conflict. Everywhere we go, in the Earth Kingdom, we see the political conflict. In the Northern Water Tribe, we see the political conflict. In the Southern Water Tribe, we see the political conflict. And amongst the air temples that have been destroyed, we see the political conflict. And then the Fire Nation, we see the political conflict. It could not be more clear that the differences between these nations is political and not spiritual. The Fire Nation doesn't believe in a different god or anything. Yeah,
and one of the coolest things about the Avatar, the Avatar as a person, to me, is the reincarnation cycle. It's a big part of, I think, every season of Avatar, but definitely of season 1, the fact that he can talk to his predecessor, his previous life, and get advice. And there's a whole arc dedicated to him getting to a temple because he cannot access the spirit world at will in the show. He has to get to a very specific place at a very specific time, at the winter equinox or something like that. So if they had to borrow certain episodes to build a more spiritually oriented movie, they could have done it. As you said, the panda one.
Yeah.
This one where he has to go to the Fire Nation. That one is also like, you go to the Fire Nation, you have political conflict.
Yeah.
You're gonna have Zuko showing up, and you're gonna have the sages of the temple split between their loyalty to the Avatar and their loyalty to the Fire Nation.
Yeah.
You have those things. Those are good episodes. And the Netflix show,
Mhm.
it's not good, but like, it chose to adapt some of those episodes because they're good episodes, and they
I don't think
matter.
I watched beyond like episode 2 or whatever.
You saved yourself. Honestly, there's one episode maybe where I would say the good stuff outmatches the bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of this to say, this movie takes a very weird spiritual, like, turn
Yeah.
compared to the first season, but doesn't really commit to it.
Yeah.
It still wants to do all the political stuff,
Yeah.
and it wants to just kind of shove the spiritual stuff in at the end. But yeah,
And we meet a random dragon in the spirit world. The spirit world looks like ass, guys. Don't fear. If you thought maybe the spirit world would be an opportunity to show a visually interesting something, don't worry. It's just the normal world, but with a hue slider to blue.
It's all black and blue.
Yeah.
No, it's terrible. Okay, so also Aang's journey, like the revelation that Aang is the Avatar, really is like a slow process that takes the first 20 minutes of the thing. It's really an arc, him deciding to come out to his friends and to the world. So I mean, that's why I also think that like the movie, he really wanted to maybe this show about a boy accepting his role as a spiritual leader and guide, and utterly failing at delivering that.
It was because nobody has any spiritual needs in this movie. So like, who are you serving? It's just so bad, and you could see maybe how you could kind of make something out of it. It would be already a big change from Avatar, but maybe you could make something out of it.
If only Korra had been out by the time this movie was done, then he would have known that the worst season of Korra, 2, we all agree.
Yeah. Already tried this and it didn't go well.
Yeah. No, but also maybe, I mean, if he had adapted that one, there's a lot more ground material to build up the spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think he might have done a better job with that one, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, Ceres.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, we come to the end of this podcast, which we're trying to keep short for once.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me about the next movie. Book 2 Earth, directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
No.
What are things? Tell me a couple of things that happen.
Okay, first off, we explained that we need teachers who can teach us, maybe, that they can teach us how to teach airbending, earthbending to Aang. We explained 7 times what earthbending is.
Mm-hmm.
We explained the emotional resonance that earthbending has and don't follow through on it. Mm-hmm. And in the climax, Aang looks like he's suffering. Just suffering.
Well, to be fair, you remember the climax of season 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Well, it's the one where Zuko's given the opportunity to get redeemed, but Zuko chooses evil again. And instead, Azula hits Aang with lightning and almost kills him.
Well, there you go.
And then Ba Sing Se falls. So honestly, it's the season with a bad ending. It's the Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, I will add that Toph says that she's blind. She was born blind. Always been blind. But being blind has never been a problem because she can hear with her feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, how do you hear with her feet? And then she says that she hears the vibration of the ground. And then 30 minutes later, we get a cool visualization of this power and how she sees the world.
But only then.
Only then. Only once. And then they're going to be like, how did you know that? And she was like, I can see with my feet. And they're like, right. You said that before.
Yeah.
Also,
she's the only white person from her village.
She's a noble. So honestly, how could she be anything but white? We haven't touched on the race.
Yeah, we haven't touched on this, but like all the main characters are white and everyone else is Asian, and it's like super racist.
Yeah.
It's super crazy. Like everybody in the water
the
tribe,
more we move to a more advanced and industrial civilizations, the more white people we start seeing.
It's so crazy. Everybody in the water tribe who has a line is white. Everyone else is Asian. Like no exception. 100%.
Yeah, the Southern Water Tribe is the worst offender of this.
It's so crazy.
And the Earth Village. Yeah, he felt like, these small rural places, these small primitive villages, it was the right thing.
It's
Oh.
so crazy.
It's terrible. But yeah, so I also think, honestly, tough.
Hmm.
I think that eventually Jesus Aang would cure her blindness.
Yeah, I just like on this point of like seasons and movies, this like
It's
I'm
unadaptable.
pretty sure that Avatar: The Last Airbender was portrayed for the best audience with the best medium when it was first made. And like we can try and turn it live action, but honestly, it looks better animated. And if you want to make more Avatar, I would say just like make more seasons of Avatar the animated show, right? Go back to Korra, go back to Aang, go back to or just go into a completely new era, new Avatar, or go back to like Kyoshi or Roku or whatever, right? But like
The books
just,
apparently are good. Like there's
just
a lot
keep
of...
making more animated Avatar. Like there is no need, absolutely none, to turn it into like because none
It's
of the
cheaper and cooler when it's animated.
it doesn't look as good. Like the bending looks better animated than it does in the live action. So that's a problem. But even if this plot is adaptable and the story is adaptable, it's not adaptable as a movie. Oh my god, you can tell how episodic the plot of Avatar is when you see it condensed in a movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
okay.
the editing is so
You
bad
need
on
to
this
do-
movie, you
yeah.
have like no like scenes just happen to you. There's no sense of arcs or momentum or one scene leading to another. Scenes just kind of happen to you as the viewer with narration layered over
Yeah.
top. And like just random shit happens and you're like, why did that happen? What was the point of that? That didn't tie into anything else.
Yeah, like either you do like a big overhaul of the plot.
Yeah.
Where you really rethink it. But Shyamalan honestly sometimes really went beat for beat recreating the cartoon. Like
Yeah.
the scene where Zuko shows up as the blue spirit and frees Avatar.
Yeah.
The scene where he enters the room and like cuts his chains.
Yeah.
That's like 1-to-1 from the cartoon.
Yeah.
Like he is so crazily trying to recreate in moments.
Yeah.
But fails to see the big picture. So if I
the whole Earthbender prison part to me is just like this doesn't need to be in this movie, and so much is edited out of this movie. It's crazy. Like people will have a mask. Like Zuko has his hood down and his mask off, and we cut and he just has them on, right? Mm-hmm. Not a crime that can happen, right? But like Yue is like standing in front of the water saying, I'm going to sacrifice myself. We cut, she's already in the water, right? But even more egregious things like where
we fade transition, she's already in the water.
Yeah, we
doing it kind of for a moment it gave me
like when we fade cut from fighting in the camp to fighting in the village during the Earthbender.
That's insane.
Like,
that was the most insane.
Like they're
transition.
like really severe. Like I mentioned some of the minor ones, but there's just like severe cuts where just almost all transitional text is left out. Like we free the village, we talk to the village elders, and we immediately cut into a tense conversation about we're planning on where we're supposed to go next. And we cut out all the fluff. That conversation is just the minimum it needs to be. And then we go, okay, we're going to the North Pole. We got to keep going, right?
It's insane.
Or like the fight that Zuko has with Katara in the spirit room, right? Mm-hmm. There's clearly a scene where that was like a part of the scene that was cut where he gets soaked with water and where he spreads the fire around the room because he just has a torch and he lights a little fire in front of him. Then all of a sudden we cut and there's fire everywhere and he's soaked with water. And it's like just stuff has been like grossly cut down and removed. And I'm like, for the fact that the movie is edited with so much, like I've edited podcast episodes before where I'm like trying to cut out as much fluff as possible because I'm trying to get it under a certain time. So I get where they're coming from, but they've cut so much stuff. The whole Earthbender arc like did not need to be in there. Like the whole Earthbender prison part did not need to be in there. And so that's just like, that was an episode, right? That was an episode. That was a subplot that was interesting. So, and they wanted to include that. So they did include that. But it gives this very, the movie has no rhythm and no momentum. And it's just very weird because it has all these weird subplot pockets. Like, oh, we're doing this now. Oh, we're doing this now. Oh, we're doing that now, you know?
Yeah, certain things were just kind of like stitched together.
Yeah.
Another thing that I just briefly mentioned this, then I think we can wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
But when we, in regard about the whole like Aang being much more, this season being much more about spirituality, there is an episode where Aang gets to visit the Northern Air Temple, and it's abandoned, and he thinks it's abandoned, but instead he sees flying people. And then he thinks, oh my god, there are airbenders. But no, these are actually people who have machines simple machines that let them glide, essentially. And because the air temples are built in these areas with strong wind currents, then they kind of fly around and it looks like they're bending, but they're not.
Yeah.
And basically, there's a community here of what looks like our earthbending citizen who have moved into this temple and use it as a home where they're safe from the Fire Nation and they can be kind of isolated. There is a twist to this episode, which is that these people are being left alone by the Fire Nation because the leader of this group is an inventor and a very prolific inventor, and he's basically designing weapons for the Fire Nation in exchange for that. And Aang is very upset in this episode, not because of this, but before he finds about this, he is upset because they have essentially colonized his temple. They have broken down walls. They have built pipes in. They have added mechanical structures to it. They have turned it into a home for them, and they have desecrated what to him is something very, very important. And the episode is about him coming to terms to a certain degree, like his culture is gone, and that the needs of these essentially war refugees, as more important than the legacy of his people. And then also it's kind of also made easier because there are some treasures deep below the temple which they couldn't get to because you can open the gate if you airbend. So there is something sacred is still intact and safe, and they will never touch it. And in this movie, we kind of briefly touch upon it, where he goes to this northern air temple, and you can kind of see that there are metal bridges where there would usually be people just like flying over the gap. But instead of finding a community and learning that sometimes spirituality and spiritual needs need to be left behind, it's a Fire Nation military base.
It's just a trap.
It's a trap. But
it's just also an earthbender guy who's like, oh, I'll show you. You must be the Avatar. I'll show you the area below the temple where all the statues are. And he leads him in there, and he pulls out a knife, and he goes, aha, I trapped you. And then firebenders appear from all around the statues. So, hey, M. Night, by the way, no need to surprise Aang in this situation. He's already surrounded, right? Like, the whole surprise factor is just kind of like drama for drama's sake.
Yeah, but it's not just that it's a trap. It's if later, when he's held in prison, in bounds, and when he gets freed by Zuko and they fight, they're in the temple. So the temple has been turned into a base. It's not just that it's a trap. This entire structure has been turned into a prison. So the whole industrialization and colonization of this temple is done by the Fire Nation, the bad guys. So kind of like the purpose of the episode is retooled to poorly reinforce the theme of how good spirituality is and just how bad and evil technology is.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's worse than that. That scene is meaningless and disjointed. And without knowing a lot of context, you don't know at all what that scene is about. That scene, the emotional subtext for me as a viewer for that scene was Aang didn't listen to his friends because he was scared and visited the air temple without them, which they told him not to do. And as a consequence, he gets captured. And all of that other stuff, if you really know the material, yes, it's there, and the meaning is not properly conveyed. But I'm here to tell you that meaning is not conveyed at all in the first place.
It's not. I just hope that's a perfect example. I think that Shyamalan wanted this to be the meaning. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's a perfect example for this disjointed, weird plots that just has these substructures, these subplots in them that are ultimately meaningless to the overall adventure, that aren't talked about properly. There's no exposition shots, by the way, in like this entire movie, right? So there's no emotional stakes. There's no anything. It's just like randomly, oh, he's going to the air temple now. Oh, randomly he's been captured now. Oh, okay, now he's being freed. And it's just kind of like this subplot where the whole first part of it like doesn't really matter. It just like basically he gets kidnapped, and none of the none of the themes from the show are actually getting addressed here in this 4 minute clip. And like, how could they? It's a 4 minute clip, you know?
I guess I cannot argue with you about this movie being bad.
Yeah.
Like, you know what this movie feels like?
What?
A dream.
A dream.
A dream. It's disjointed. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it really is just kind of a fever dream. It's just kind of like, it's really it's just a process that happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're used to any kind of cinema conventions, you just won't find them here.
Mm-hmm.
You like the normal narrative structures that are commonly used to communicate information to you so that you can sort of keep up with the plot and understand what's going on as it's happening. Just forget all of that. Every beat is twice as long as it needs to be, with none of the context that it needs to mean anything. So it's just a lot of like, oh, that was a thing, right? Yeah. That line was supposed to be meaningful. It's not meaningful because I don't care about any of you at all. Like towards the end of the movie, they start to have like some emotional like monologues with one another, and I'm just like, just get out of here, man. I don't give a fuck about any single one of you, right? Like, you're not my ong.
You're not my ong.
I don't give a fuck about you. Like, I don't care about your feelings at all because I have no reason. Like, I have received no characterization. I have no reason to know or think anything of you. You're just kind of like a stranger whose journey I've watched, like someone you see on a train, on a phone call or something, you know? So.
Yeah. So apart from a 10-hour long rant, which I'm sure you could do, do you have anything to add?
No, I think we could cut it here. Mostly just to summarize, right? The editing was bad. The writing was bad. The bending was bad. The acting was bad. The pacing was bad. The writing was especially bad. Let's just highlight that again.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So, any plugs?
Any plugs? I have played another board game at this week's board game night. Mm-hmm. It's called Scythe. Mm-hmm. It's quite famous. It's a strategy board game with very cool art made by a Polish artist. It's about essentially an alternate history Europe during approximately World War I time. Mm-hmm. It was giant mechs. Yeah. And factions that vaguely resemble different countries, but legally distinct enough. And it's not really it's not really about fighting. Just so you know, there might be fights, but it's really about controlling the territory and expanding and managing your resources. It looks really complicated. It's one of those games that you look and you go like, oh my fucking god. Yeah. Turns out it's it's not saying it's rules light, but it's very well designed. Every turn you get to do one thing out of 4 things, and then it's the next person's turn. So it's a very quick game where you keep circling around, things keep happening, and
kind of like Ticket to Ride.
Exactly. And also, honestly, you can't do 3 things. You can't do 4 things per turn. You can do 3 because out of 4 options, you can't do the same thing twice in a row. So once you take an option, you have to look at the other 3. Yeah, it's surprisingly simple and quick to learn. And also, I find the design of the board and your little character or personal trackers are very simple. They use colored dice. Cubes and symbols to track things, so it's always everything is very clear. I think it's a very well designed game. I think that if you enjoy board games, it's not as scary as it may look.
Yeah. I don't know. I would plug the rest of the Avatar series, but they're all okay. Like, none of them are so amazing that they're gonna blow you away forever. Like, they're always 7 out of 10. So if you want some 7 out of 10 entertainment, go look at the rest of the Avatar series. And I cannot come up with a better plug right now.
I think the first Avatar: The Last Airbender is at least an 8 out of 10. With Korra, 7 out of 10. Might even be generous, but on an average, yes, sure.
Yeah, I mean, the old Avatar is a little, fugglier and more
the animation
infantile in places.
Yeah, sure. The animation also in season 1 especially is a bit wonkier. Korra has some really cool animation.
Yeah, but Korra also has the worst plot, I would say. Probably. I think Avatar, they were like, oh, we're gonna do this thing, and we split it into 3 arcs, and here we go. And Korra, they were just kind of like, oh, we get another season? Cool. Let me make up some shit. Yeah. So
is this ending gonna be the ending? Who knows? But it's gonna feel like it. Yeah. I would say Avatar has bad episodes.
But don't watch any of the live action stuff.
No,
they haven't cracked it yet. We'll let you know. We'll do a very special episode when they crack it.
Yeah. But with all this being said,
That'll just about do it for our 13th episode. You can find us at youtube.com/@a-friendly-orbit, where we will probably eventually upload stuff. Otherwise, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you have any astral echoes you want to share with us, you can email us at afriendlyorbit@gmail.com. All one word.
I'm sorry, Ceres, that I did this to you, but I couldn't be prouder that we did this together.
We had a great time.
We had a great time, and I'll see you later. And to all of our fellow Voyagers out there, we'll see you out there amongst the stars.
Love the repetition.
Yes.